Picture this. You're sitting across from a friend, and she's telling you about her boyfriend. Sweet guy, stable, makes her laugh, feels like coming home after a long day. And you're nodding along, but there's this quiet dissonance in your chest, because what you had with him didn't feel like coming home at all. It felt like getting hit by a car you didn't see coming. Your hands shook for a week after you met him. You couldn't eat. You definitely couldn't explain it to anyone without sounding unhinged. That gap between coming home and getting hit by a car is not a difference in degree. It's not that your connection was just a more intense version of what your friend has. It's a different category of thing entirely, and almost nobody explains that clearly. So people spend years trying to fit a twin flame experience into a soulmate-shaped box and wondering why it keeps breaking. Here's the actual distinction, and it matters more than any quiz you'll take later. A soulmate is a separate soul from your own soul family. Think of it like two different instruments that happen to sound beautiful together. Different notes, same key, real harmony. It's supportive, it's comforting. It grows you gently over time. It's supposed to feel safe. A twin flame isn't a separate instrument playing alongside you. In this framework, it's one soul that's split into two bodies, which means the person in front of you is carrying the exact same note you are, your own frequency, played back at you. That's not harmony. That's an echo so exact it's disorienting. And an echo doesn't comfort you. It exposes you, because there's nowhere for anything false in you to hide when you're staring at your own signal in someone else's eyes. That's the actual function of a twin flame connection. It's built to mirror your unhealed stuff back to you, so precisely that your ego can't keep managing it. Not your best qualities, the buried ones, the old wound you've been quietly protecting for 20 years. The one from a parent who left, or a childhood where you learned love wasn't safe. That's what gets held up in front of you now, whether you asked for it or not. A soulmate reflects your beauty. A twin flame reflects your shadow. Both are real, both matter, but they are not the same job. And here's the part that explains almost everything that happens later, so hold on to it. Whatever you are personally running from inside yourself, this connection tends to physically run from you in the relationship. If your oldest wound is abandonment, don't be surprised when this person, at some point, embodies exactly that, pulling away at the worst possible moment. It's not a coincidence, and it's not cruelty. It's the mechanism, doing its job, showing you the fracture you've spent years avoiding by making someone else act it out in front of you. So how do you actually know which one you're in? You don't take someone's word for it, including mine. You look for the signs, because the signs are consistent and they're specific. Sign 1. Your timelines don't just overlap, they mirror each other in a way that stops feeling like coincidence. Not we both like jazz. More like, you were at the same concert 3 years before you met, standing in the same room, and neither of you knew. You moved to the same city the same month. You both went through a divorce in the exact same year, and both ended up living, without ever crossing paths, on the same street in a foreign city the following summer. People call this an optical illusion, because once you notice one overlap, you start finding 5 more, and at some point, the odds stop making sense as coincidence. Sign 2. The first time you actually looked at each other, something happened that wasn't a normal, he's cute moment. It's a double take, the kind where the room genuinely goes quiet around you for a second. Some people describe it as dizzying, like vertigo, as if you've known this person for lifetimes you can't place. Some describe it as a full-body jolt, like your nervous system recognized something before your brain caught up. It's not romantic butterflies. It's closer to shock, and it's the kind of thing you remember with total clarity years later, where you were standing, what you were wearing, the exact second eye contact landed, because your body filed it as an event, not a moment. Those two signs alone tend to separate a real twin flame experience from an unusually good first date, but they're only the surface. The 8 signs after this are where it gets harder to explain away, because they stop being things you noticed and start being things your body did without your permission. The chest sensations, the dreams, the way your old life starts quietly falling apart within months of meeting this person, whether you wanted it to or not. Let's keep going, because the next signs are the ones that make people start Googling things at 2 a.m. with shaking hands. Sign 3 is the bubble. Early on, when you're physically together, time stops behaving normally. You'll sit in a parked car outside her apartment for 6 hours, and it'll feel like 20 minutes. You won't eat. You won't check your phone. The rest of the world, your job, your responsibilities, the group chat blowing up, just goes muffled, like someone put a blanket over it. People in this community call it the bubble phase, and it's worth knowing the real function of it before you romanticize it too hard. It's not a preview of a stable relationship. It's the universe giving you a taste of what union feels like before the actual work. The mirroring, the friction, the unraveling begins. It's a hook, not a promise. Sign 4 is physical, and this is the one people are most embarrassed to admit out loud. A real, tangible sensation in the center of your chest. Warmth, fluttering, sometimes an ache that pulls, like something behind your breastbone is tethered to somewhere else. It shows up when you're near them. It shows up when you're not, when you're just thinking about them from 3 states away. Some people describe waking at the exact same time, 3:33, most often, for 3 nights running, drenched and panicked, with a feeling in their body that isn't even theirs. This isn't a metaphor for, I miss him. It's described as a literal heart chakra activation, and if you've felt it, you already know it doesn't feel like a normal crush. It feels like a wire is live under your skin. Sign 5 is the crash, and this is where a lot of people get genuinely blindsided. A soulmate relationship moves from honeymoon phase into stability gradually, the way you'd expect. A twin flame connection doesn't do that, it snaps. 1 week you're in the bubble, transcendent, finishing each other's sentences. Then something small happens. A disagreement about weekend plans, nothing that should matter. And suddenly one person goes cold, pulls away, sometimes disappears entirely. It's called soul shock for a reason. It doesn't feel like a normal fight escalating. It feels like a fracture. This is also where 2 roles show up that you'll hear constantly in this space. So let's name them properly. The one who pulls away, who experiences the intensity as a threat to their autonomy and shuts down to protect themselves, is called the runner. The one who feels the pulling away and responds by reaching harder, texting more, needing reassurance, trying to close the distance, is called the chaser. Neither role is the villain. Underneath it, the runner is usually operating from an avoidant attachment pattern, where closeness itself trips an alarm. The chaser is usually operating from an anxious attachment pattern, where distance trips the alarm instead. Same fear, opposite response. That's why this dynamic feels so combustible. One person runs toward the fire, the other runs from it, and both are convinced they're the reasonable one. Sign 6 is telepathic tracking, and this is one of the stranger ones to sit with. You're at your desk at work, it's 3 p.m., and out of nowhere you burst into tears, or get hit with a wave of anxiety that has no source you can point to. Later you find out that's the exact minute he had a breakdown, or she had a panic attack, 3 states away. People experience this constantly in this framework, sensing the other person's emotional state without any contact at all. Sign 7 is the dreams. Not normal dreams, the kind where your brain is clearly just processing your day. These are hyper-vivid, repeat frequently, and often involve the person communicating something specific to you, sometimes an apology, sometimes just a presence. And here's the detail that gets people every time. Some report having the exact same dream on the exact same night as their twin flame, without either person mentioning it first. Sign 8 is what people call the rubber band effect. You try to walk away, really try, block them, delete the number, and instead of the relief you expected, you get withdrawal, insomnia, no appetite, obsessive, circling thoughts you can't shut off. It doesn't ease until contact resumes. That's worth naming clearly, because it's often mistaken for proof of a spiritual bond, when it can also be the signature of a straightforward trauma bond. More on that distinction in a minute, because it matters. Sign 9 is synchronicity flooding. Their exact birth date on a clock 3 times in one day. Their name on a street sign in a city you don't even live in. Their song playing on the radio the exact second you decide to stop thinking about them. In the wider framework, people treat this like a kind of GPS system, signs deployed to confirm the connection during moments of doubt, especially when you're deep in the separation and starting to question whether any of it was real. Sign 10 is the biggest one, and it's the one that actually changes people's lives. Within months, your old life starts dismantling itself. The job you'd had for a decade suddenly feels unlivable. The marriage that looks stable on paper starts cracking. Your entire belief system shifts. This isn't collateral damage. In this framework, it's the point. The connection isn't built for domestic comfort. It's built to force you to become someone you weren't before you met them. Now, before we go further, I need to say something plainly, because I've watched too many people get hurt by skipping this part. Everything I just described, the mirroring, the running, the intensity, has a dark twin. It can look identical to a completely different, much more dangerous pattern. That distinction is the difference between a spiritual awakening and staying in something that's quietly destroying you. Let's talk about how to tell them apart and what to actually do once you know which one you're in. Here's where I have to be direct with you, because this is the part of the framework that gets abused constantly, and I'd rather lose your comfort for 30 seconds than let you walk back into something dangerous with a spiritual label on it. Everything I described, the highs, the sudden freeze, the withdrawal sickness when you try to walk away, that pattern is identical to something with a much less mystical name: idealization, devaluation, discard. It's the exact shape of a narcissistic abuse cycle. So if the person mirroring you is also gaslighting you, disappearing to sleep with other people, and calling you crazy for wanting basic commitment, insulting you, making you shrink, that is not a runner working through fear. That is not your job to heal through mirror work. That's a karmic partner, someone who looks and feels like a twin flame, but is actually there to teach you a harsh lesson and leave, not to grow with you, or something worse. And no amount of, "he's just afraid of the love," changes what's actually happening to your nervous system. A real mirror shows you your own lack of self-worth by making you walk away and choose your own peace. It does not require you to stay and absorb disrespect while you wait for someone else to become capable of loving you properly. So here's the line, and I want you to actually hear it, not just nod at it. Spirituality never requires you to sacrifice your safety, physical or emotional. If a connection needs you to tolerate degradation to keep believing it's sacred, it's not sacred. It's just hurting you with better branding. Walk away from that in the real world, no matter what anyone in a comment section tells you about auras and timing. Okay, assuming what you're in is the real thing, genuine mirroring, not abuse dressed up in spiritual language, here's what actually helps. Because white-knuckling through the sensations doesn't work, and neither does obsessively checking their Instagram for the 40th time tonight. When you get triggered, really triggered, the kind where you want to spiral, try inverting the thought instead of just feeling it. If your gut reaction is, "I'm upset because they're ignoring me," flip it. I'm upset because I'm ignoring myself. Sit with whether that's actually true. Usually it is. You've been neglecting your own needs, your own boundaries, your own life, while all your attention goes towards someone who isn't even in the room. The resolution isn't getting them to respond, it's giving yourself the attention you were demanding from them. When the physical symptoms hit, the crying that comes from nowhere, the anxiety spike, don't reach for your phone. That's the instinct, and it's the wrong one. Instead, sit down, put a hand over your chest, and let it move through you as energy clearing, rather than a problem to solve by texting them. The urge to reach out is loudest, right when reaching out will hurt you most. And the outward chase, the checking their location, asking mutual friends what they're up to, watching their stories, has to stop, not because you're being punished, but because every ounce of energy you spend chasing is energy you're not spending on your own life. Redirect it. Put it into a project, your body, your own healing. There's a second reason this matters, and it goes back to the runner and chaser dynamic from earlier. If you're the chaser, your frantic energy isn't neutral. It's the exact pressure the runner is fleeing from in the first place. Every panic text, every check on their location, confirms to their nervous system that closeness equals danger. When you stop chasing and actually stabilize, you're not giving up. You're removing the one thing that was keeping them running by design. That's not a trick to lure them back. It's just what a calm, grounded person looks like from the outside, and it happens to be the only version of you that was ever going to reach them anyway. If you're at the point where you know something real is happening but you can't tell which stage you're actually in, or whether what you're facing is separation or something else entirely, that's exactly what the stages section of the Twin Flame Compass walks you through. Not to give you a false timeline, but so you're not just guessing in the dark about where you stand. I can't tell you when or if reunion happens. Nobody honest can. What I can tell you is that the version of this journey that actually resolves, with or without them, is the one where you stop trying to manage their side of the mirror and start tending to your own. That's not a consolation prize. In this framework, it was always the actual point.